Not for this. Well, we can turn the volume on these speakers way up. Why don't we do that? I think, hey, Kev, can you just do a sound check real quick again?
Check 1, 2, 3.
Okay, yeah, awesome, thank you. I think everybody here in the room can hear you. So let me move over this right here. There we go, there's Kevin. Ah, cool. Okay, I think we're set to go. So Kevin, you got, wow, what do we have, about 20, 25 people in the room here in Seattle, Washington. So we want to thank you for your time. So as you can see, there's the chat there. We've also got a couple people dialing in that are not here in the room that are in the class. So I think, let's see, Ryan, David, Ben, Caitlin, and then in the room we've got a whole bunch of folks. So why don't you, I guess I mentioned a little bit about getting to meet you in New Orleans and just being a fan of the work that you've been doing on Tableau Public lately. And I'm looking forward to hearing more of the backstory and all that. But why don't you kind of take it from here and just introduce yourself to the room and kind of get started on what you want to review with them today.
All right, cool. Appreciate you having me. So my name is Kevin Flerlage, and as an introduction, I created after just 2 months of working with Tableau. And hopefully Ben recognizes this one. This one actually got third place in a competition we'll talk about a little bit later. So I know Ben and Lisa through Twitter and in the Tableau community, and they asked me here to talk to you about, well, to talk about me. And that sounds a little silly, but truth is I'm a relative newcomer to Tableau and in this space in general. Journey, maybe give you a few tips, show you a few things, and maybe give you some ideas on how you can really explode your journey, how you can get better at Tableau and better at dataviz. In a relatively, before I was using Tableau, I was sitting using Excel in a customer's office, and my company asked me to go through speech training. I think things they talked about was CABA. It's credibility, audience, body, and attention. The credibility thing is where I always struggled because I always felt like I was bragging when I'm talking about myself. Well, this entire presentation is going to be about me, so just trying to help show how a relative newcomer can excel within Tableau relatively quickly. But to head off this credibility thing and any sort of awkwardness I might feel, we're just going to go through a whole slide of why I'm not just some Joe off the street. All right? Looking at the side of my head here, so it's got 2 monitors. So I've been using Tableau for 14 months. I started in late February of 2018. I have 2 viz of the days, which is not a huge number, but if you're not aware of what, hopefully Ben's informed you of all this cool Tableau stuff, stuff that Tableau does. But if anything that you publish to Tableau Public is eligible for viz of the day, and they choose those Monday through Friday. Tweet them out, send emails, and you get a lot of exposure with those visualizations. So I have 2 of those. I am a 2-time Tableau Wannabe Video Award. Sounds crazy, but there's a podcast called the Tableau Wannabe. And 6 months into using Tableau at the Tableau conference, I won 2 of those awards. I was recently top 5 in a women's analytics competition here close near to me in Columbus, Ohio. Last year, is Ben, everybody aware what Iron Viz is? Or should I kind of explain that?
Do you guys know Iron Viz? Oh, it looks like they don't. A couple people do, but yeah. No.
All right, explain it. This stuff gets me excited. So, Iron Viz is a competition where winners get to compete on stage at the Tableau conference to do their best viz in 20 minutes. And that sounds crazy intimidating. You do get the data a little bit ahead of time, but how you qualify for that is they do 3. You provide them with a visualization on that topic, and they have judges pick their favorites. They pick top 10s, and they pick the winner, and it's based on design, storytelling, and analysis. So the viz that I just placed after me just using Tableau for 2 months. I'm one of 2 people that got 2 top 10s last year. The only other person that Ben knows well is Ann Jackson. She's a Tableau Zen master, a Zen of the community and selected by Tableau. There's only 30 of them in the world, but she got top 10 in all 3 Iron Viz competitions. So, and then I am the 8th most favorited author on Tableau Public of all time. On Tableau Public, if you create a viz, it's a little more intentional than, say, hitting the like button on Twitter or on Facebook. Yeah, after just 14 months of using Tableau, I'm the 8th all time on most favorites. So I've been lucky enough, and I do say luck because I've been lucky enough to have relative success in 14 months. What I'm going to talk about tonight is the what I call the full Tableau experience, and we will get into that in detail. But what I hope is you'll be able to hopefully have a little fun while doing it. So a little bit of, whoop, I hit the wrong key. A little bit of history. I grew up in Hebron, Kentucky. So Hebron, Kentucky is 15 minutes south of Cincinnati, Ohio, just across the river. And just an interesting fact in Hebron, Kentucky. Cincinnati Airport is not in Cincinnati, nor is it even in Ohio. So I now live in Burlington, which is the next town over. So I've ventured in 42 years, 5 minutes away. And the next town from that, whether you know it or not, as you can see with the map, Florence, Kentucky, and Seattle, Washington have a connection. So I'm going to open this up to the class. Does anybody know how Florence, Kentucky, and Seattle, Washington are connected? Impressed? Nothing? Crickets?
Nope, no clue. No.
Any Seahawks fans in the class?
I didn't know Florence, Kentucky was a place.
Any Seahawks fans here?
I think we probably have a few. We're getting some nods here. We got some fans over here. We got some 12th.
Maybe this isn't that strong of a connection, but Sean Alexander grew up in Florence, Kentucky, and MVP, Pro Bowl running back for the Seattle Seahawks. Sean is my age. He's better, as good of a running back he was, much better guy. If you guys are aware of the charities and things he's involved in, awesome dude. So, all right, now that we feel connected, and maybe you guys don't, maybe you don't care about Sean Alexander, maybe he's just the old guy like me, be more interested in. So I have 14 years in analytics, experience in analytics. Prior to my current job, all I did was grind it out in Excel. And I'm guessing maybe there's a few people in your class, Ben, that are kind of in that same looking data sets, analyzing tables, maybe throwing a chart in there. And then every month updating those reports, and it's a grind. It was, I know it was for me, and I did it for a lot of years. I got to the point where I was ready for a change. Networking with folks in my company and outside of my company and looking at other jobs, job postings, one of the major common denominators was the word Tableau. It was very common to see in job postings, and it was constantly talked. Enters, well, let me explain, I guess. This is me, Kevin Flerlage, and this guy is named Ken Flerlage. And you can see the little t-shirt he's wearing. He is a Tableau Zen Master, and title somebody gives themselves. It's awarded by Tableau. And Ken is my identical twin brother. So Ken has been using Tableau for a little over 3 years. After 2 years of using Tableau, he was selected as a Zen Master, and once again recently in 2019 selected for a second time as a Zen Master. He's pretty well known in the community. He does all kinds of cool visualizations. He has a really popular blog. I think it's got about 2 million views on it. I think he's number 4 on answering questions in the forums. He's very active in the community. So he's very well known, but he's more well known for being the model for Mr. Clean. Is that not ridiculous that he looks exactly like Mr. Clean? Like exactly. There better be some laugh. Ben, I mean, because look at that. Old jokes here. So I started using Tableau February 26, 2018. And I remember that date well because it was an important date in my life and my career. I'd actually, a few weeks before that, when I started hearing about Tableau, I reached out to my brother. You know, I'm hearing lots about Tableau. And I think finally, you know, I know, Ken, you're good at this. Finally, I think it's time for me to start learning it. And he responded, you know, really excited. He was excited about the fun he thought I would have with it. And the people that I sent me a message that had a link to someone else's Udemy training video. And I thought, I've got an identical twin brother who is a Zen Master, and he wants me to learn from a video. So I told him that's not happening. We're going to get on a call, and Ken, you're going to teach me. So that night we spent about 3 hours introducing me to Tableau and, you know, the functionality, but he probably spent an hour of those 3 hours telling me and introducing me to what I would refer to as the full Tableau experience. That's not necessarily just using Tableau at work or using Tableau personally. There's a lot more to that. So I will get to that momentarily. So just some successes. You know, just to kind of give, and hopefully, you know, when we get to this full Tableau experience piece, you'll kind of understand, this will kind of all come together. But March 2018, I published my first viz, and I was really ate up with it. I think I created 3 or 4 viz in a month, 5 vizzes in a month. My 5th one got viz of the day. A few months later, that Lorax viz got 3rd place in Iron Viz Feeder. So 2 months in, competing with the best, and I got 3rd place. Boy, lucky I didn't win, because I don't know if I was ready to be on stage after just a few months. A few months later, got 9th place in Iron Viz Feeder. And now probably the greatest part about Tableau in general is for 6 months, I was a little less than 6 months, 5 months, I was building my portfolio on Tableau Pub. Interested in, I was creating business, and I was building this portfolio. I was just having fun with it, but I was actually building a portfolio at the same time. And I had somebody reach out to me via Twitter and said, "Hey, Kevin, how'd you like this for a living?" It's like, wow, I can't even imagine. I've only been doing this for 5 months. And what he commented on is, he said, "I've been following you on Twitter. I've been following your Tableau public profile. You're talented, and we need a guy to be a Tableau developer." And I was honest. I told him about it. That person happened to be a gentleman by the name of Jeff Schaefer. He's a 4-time Zen Master. Brilliant guy, well known in this community, willing to help anybody, and he just so happens to run a company in Cincinnati, Ohio. So that Tableau is able to put a resume online and really show your portfolio off. So started with him in October, started a blog, attended my first conference. If you guys have not been to a conference, it's the greatest. It's awesome. And you probably talked about it before. I was in a tip battle. This is really just, you know, I was just kind of drinking from the water hose. Created a technique called no polygons that just went nuts. Hundreds of visualizations created, 5 viz of the days from it. So just things. In December, I collaborated with on some vizzes. Been interviewed. You know, in February, celebrated 1 year. We even had became part of the Cincinnati Tableau Tableau user with the name of Josh Tapley. Actually created a website devoted to the Flerlage twins. It's on his website called Visification, and he's got a section called I can't even pronounce it, Flerlagecation, something like that. So we have a lot of people in my life helping guide me and help walk me through this process. So anyways.
Hey, Kev.
Yes, sir.
Can I jump in real quick? Would you mind? We love your face, but we're kind of getting some like breakages in the audio. So could you turn your video off and we'll see if it goes a little smoother? And actually, I should do the same for me.
And how might I do that?
Okay, so if you see a little panel with all the faces and everything on it like that.
I do.
Then there should be.
Stop video. Got it.
Yeah, there you go. I just did it too. There we go. Okay, let's see if that goes better. I mean, it's okay. It's just like we're getting like every 30 seconds or so, it kind of like gives us about a 5-second break, but we're cool. We've been able to follow along, but we're trying to make it. So carry on.
Ben, if that happens again, just interrupt me and we can try and figure it out.
Okay. So
okay.
Give it a go.
All right. So one of the things that Lisa said for doing this presentation is let's just kind of look at some visualizations. Let's look at things that may inspire you to do some cool things, may inspire you to, get going and doing visualizations in your personal time. So that's what we'll do for now. So I'm going to kind of close down this PowerPoint for now, and we're going to hop on Tableau Public. Can everybody see that okay?
Yeah. Yep. Looks
okay.
Good.
All right. So just kind of a little bit of my portfolio here on Tableau Public, but I'm just going to pop open the first viz. And these things are probably going to try and reload on me because I opened them about a half an hour ago. So, so my first visualization, and you'll probably see some influence from my brother. I don't know if anybody's familiar with his work, but I just tried to visualize the winners of Survivor and predict the winner of the upcoming Survivor. So one thing that you'll probably notice from the get-go is this is not a Tableau supported font. So if you're not aware, there's about, 12 fonts that Tableau supports. So one of the little tricks in personal vizzing, I don't use it much in professional vizzing, but in personal vizzing, if you have a font you like, this font is the Survivor font. You can always just bring that font, you download that font, open up PowerPoint, type in what you want, Surviving Survivor in that particular font, and you can save that as an image. You can bring it into Tableau as an image. So one little trick you can do there. And then from the get-go, Ken told me about the color pickers. You can see these colors, these orange and these yellows match the Survivor logo exactly. So pretty simple viz, nothing exciting, maybe too much color, probably orange, yellow, and white, probably not needed. And I try to predict the winner. Based on past winners. This guy Bradley was to me had the best chance to win, and Angela had the worst. Well, Bradley went home like third, and Angela made it all the way to the end. So I completely whiffed on that. So, anyways, this is the first viz of the day that I had. So I had given to charities in the past that focused on providing clean water to certain areas of the world. I didn't really know what areas were problems, but I thought it'd be something interesting to visualize. So I just did a simple Google search, was able to find a nice data set that showed this. The data set showed maybe a couple hundred, I don't know how many countries there are in the world, but it showed a couple hundred countries, and it showed the percentage of people in those countries that had access to clean water. And I believe it showed it over like a 50-year period. So it was pretty wide data set, lots of columns. But the cool thing about this visualization wasn't necessarily that it was cool that it got Viz of the Day, but was that I realized, and this is the fifth one I created, this is when I really realized that Tableau wasn't just a, create a cool infographic tool. It was a really great analysis tool. And I learned that by taking this data, throwing it in a map, and immediately seeing what you see on screen. That is probably in North America, South America, Australia, Russia. They're really concentrated in Africa. So a quick map really revealed a lot that you couldn't discover just by looking and combing through tables of data. So naturally, I titled this Clean Water for Africa. So really, if you look through this, I'll come back to the water bottles in a second. If you look through this, you see maps, some bar charts, and a line chart. Nothing complicated. Probably a decent use of color. It's nothing overly complicated. This looks complicated, but really this is just a bar chart with some shapes laid over top of it. So the background of these shapes are black, and the inside of the bottles are made transparent to allow that bar chart to show through. So this is something that really got people excited. Ben, I don't know if you'll remember this, but when this got Viz of the Day, Ben reached out to me. It was the first time I ever talked to Ben. I knew who he was. So Ben's messaging me. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is for real. This is guy's like the king, and he's messaging me. And he said, hey, great job. Love your Viz of the Day. But do you remember this, Ben?
Yeah, man. I think you had 50% like at the bottom.
I truncated my axis on my bar chart. So yeah, this thing cut off right here. And that's going to
Now I was getting all persnickety about that, wasn't I?
Reload on me. And what it did was it made Africa significant. What's that, Ben?
No, I got all persnickety about that, didn't I? But at least that was nice.
You weren't persnickety. You said, hey, you shouldn't truncate your axis. And you're exactly right. I had basically cut it off here, and it made Africa look way worse than it really was. It made Africa look like nobody had access to clean drinking water. So, so even though I had a decent Viz that got Viz of the Day, I was still making plenty of mistakes. So I appreciate that, Ben. I will tell you, I haven't done it since. Appreciate
it. Good to know. Yeah, I remember that. No, I was kind of like, oh, I should let him know.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you were cool about it.
So next comes Iron Viz. So I've kind of talked a little bit about Iron Viz. The buzz in the community when I just started with Tableau about Iron Viz was crazy. And when I was told that the winners of Iron Viz get to be on stage and do a Viz in 20 minutes, I thought, oh gosh, there's no way I even want to win. But I'm super competitive, so I decided I'd at least compete. Having used Tableau for, I think, when I started this Viz a month and a half, I thought, well, there's absolutely zero chance of winning, so why not give it a go, have a little fun. So I anxiously waited for the topic, and I don't know if Ben's involved in the selection of the topic or was involved in the selection of the topic, but the topic was literature, and I thought, oh gosh. For me, I made it all through high school by reading one book. I probably shouldn't be telling the people in your class this, Ben, but I was a master at not reading. I was good at reading the first chapter and the last chapter and somehow getting A's. So literature is not my thing. I don't enjoy reading. I like reading blog posts and things like that, but for literature, books, novels, wasn't my thing. So I almost scrapped it, but I thought, well, what the heck? Let's look at books that were turned into movies. And I tried a couple of things. I tried the book Wonder, and The Wicked was was a book before it was a screenplay. And then I ran into the Lorax, and I thought, wow, this really makes for a cool story. If you don't know what the Lorax is, it is Dr. Seuss's take on deforestation, how we have treated the environment. So what I decided to do is, and this really lended itself to good storytelling, is I took a quote from the book way back in the days when the grass was still green and the pond was still wet and the clouds were still clean. I took a quote from the book, and then I paralleled that with our environment. So throughout here, I kind of walk through the story of the book, but I also work through the story of the life of deforestation. This viz turned out pretty good. I remember I did this all and didn't share a piece of it with my brother until I was done. I sent it to him, and he said, "Oh crap, this could win." So I got scared, and luckily it didn't. It ended up in third place, and which I'm obviously very proud of after 2 months, but still grateful it did not win. Another Iron Viz, I decided to create Candyland. So and I won't spend much time on this. I got this little character. I want to just have some fun. This is the topic was health and well-being. So why not do it about candy, right? So I got this little character. This is probably going to refresh on me, so bear with me. Yep, I figured it was. So I got this little character. I pick a card. The character moves. I click on the spot. It goes to a different dashboard. I can investigate that dashboard, pick another card, click on that dashboard. So we kind of go walk through this whole board to kind of talk about the dangers of eating too much sugar. All right. I'm going to go through a few more here. I'm not going to belabor the point, but I just want to kind of show some of the fun things that I'm doing outside of work. And really, all this stuff was done before I was even doing this for a living. So this is Mario Brothers. So you can see it's kind of set up like Mario. I have the volume turned on, but when you press player 1, it actually plays the theme song for the first Mario Brothers. When you click the second box, it's going to refresh on me again. So let me try that again. It actually changes to Mario Brothers 2 and Mario Brothers 3. And if you have the volume turned up, it plays the theme song. And I don't know if you noticed, but all these things throughout here are charts. So these are changing, showing different statistics about Mario Brothers. All right. Then I started to get a little bit more advanced. I talked about my technique that created a bunch of visualizations. So this is a technique that I basically created. It's I don't know if anybody ever has used polygons, but they can be tricky, especially with rounded edges. I won't get into the details of that, but I created a way to create a visualization like this that involves shapes only. It's really not complicated. Like I said, it ultimately, I think I've counted like 70, 80 vizzes that we created using this technique. It's had a little bit of resurgence over the last few weeks. There have been 5 viz of the days created off of that. So I mentioned the Women's in Analytics competition recently. This viz got top 5. I did not win, but it got top 5. And one of the things I kind of want to keep mentioning is a lot of this stuff's not complicated. You see a bar chart, a couple of maps. This is a donut chart made look like handcuffs, and a little some shapes up here. So nothing overly complicated. What always strikes people in this one is the background. I drew this in PowerPoint. A lot of people kind of know me as the PowerPoint guy. I do all my graphic design in PowerPoint. So it doesn't, being a relative newcomer, I try to make my techniques and my visualization simple and use simple tools that people know, like PowerPoint.
Yeah, I do a lot of that too. I do a lot of work. Yeah.
And I call myself the PowerPoint guy. I've been on for a long time, but I mean, it's so simple. Everybody knows how to This is just a couple of rectangles and triangles of different colors. That's all it is. It's really, really simple. You don't need complicated tools like Photoshop or any of those graphic tools to do most of these things. Then I've got into some things a little bit more complicated. These are some radial bar charts, a radial line chart to show streaks. So I guess I should go, here you go. Here's your Seattle Mariners. The longer and wider these extend out, the longer the streak. So your longest streak last year was, it's getting cut off, was eight games in a row. So just some fun stuff. I would never advise doing this in a professional environment. I don't, probably a bar chart would be, and the line chart would be significant. But one of the things I would recommend, and I'll get into this momentarily, is having fun with Tableau, is doing things you wouldn't normally do, because what you'll find is creating a radial bar chart will teach you how to union your data, how to connect two dots with a line. In my opinion, a radial bar chart is really a barbell chart. If you've gone into that, it's really the same concept. In fact, I wrote a blog post about that talks about how you can basically turn a barbell chart into a radial bar chart. So by playing with Tableau and in your personal time and having a little bit of fun, you're going to learn a lot that you can apply to your business life as well. Here's a recent, and I'll kind of get to it here. Here's a recent viz that I created with another person in the Tableau community, Lindsay Betzendahl. Kind of an infographic, but it has a lot of techniques in here, really tell a nice story. And then I am going to skip over. I've got some templates out there. One of the things that caught Lisa's attention is the fact that we can use Tableau for good. Now, there's plenty of social projects out there that allow you to viz for good. And you know, in this cheetah viz, you know, the cheetah is nearly endangered. That could potentially do good. But one of the more practical things that came up in my personal life is that I am involved in a ministry at my church called the Dollar Club, where we collect $1 every week from members of the church, and we take all that money, and at the end of the month, we give it away to somebody in need. Well, we needed to really, every year that we've been doing this, we've kind of give a State of the Union address to the church, so they understand where we stand, dollars collected, what we collected that year, what we collected to date, how we're trending, are we giving more, are we giving less? And I thought, what better thing to use than to use Tableau? So I create this sort of very simple dashboard in Tableau to help my church, right? And then most recently, let me refresh this because it looks like it's stopped. This is my most recent viz. This is for the newest Iron Viz feeder, and a little bit more technical than I was with the Lorax. So you see some, you know, this was kind of tricky. I'm writing about how you animate, even though you can't use pages on Tableau Public as of now, and you have sort of this waffle chart, nice jitter plot. So a little bit of different techniques here. So I'm going to jump back to, so that, you know, that was kind of just an idea of things that are possible. I'm going to jump back to my PowerPoint, and we're going to kind of get to the point here. I'm going to talk about that full Tableau experience that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. The full Tableau experience is really about ingraining yourself in Tableau, not just practicing and using Tableau either at work or in your personal life, but really ingraining yourself in that experience. And I was lucky enough to have Ken introduce me to that stuff early on, day one even. I know a lot of people that have been using Tableau for years that, you know, maybe just recently got involved and realized how exciting it is. So I'm going to talk about 5 different points here, and these are really the ways that I grew, and I hope that you can apply them to your journey, and that they'll help you grow as well. So the very first one is first for a reason. outside of being in a Ben Jones data visualization class, this is probably the greatest way you can grow. And that is through being a part of the Tableau community. So what the heck do I mean by the Tableau community? So the Tableau community is really groups of people that get together that talk about Tableau. So the place that I'm going to start, and I mentioned it a couple times, is Twitter. I'm a 40-something-year-old guy, and Twitter sounded intimidating to me. And when I was first told, hey, you need to get on Twitter to kind of talk Tableau with people, I really didn't want to. But what I realized is there's a ton of really great people on there. You have people posting their vizzes where you can get inspiration. You can post your own viz where people give you feedback. You can talk about Tableau. You're connected to Tableau experts. It's where I first started talking to Ben Jones and Johnny Walker and some of the greats in the Tableau arena. If you don't have a Twitter account, I greatly recommend it. There are several people that have lists of people to follow, but if you wanted to just go to, find me and just follow the people I'm following, I would you got to do it. You got to do it because you're going to learn a ton. You're going to be inspired and you're going to make some really great friends in the process. You're going to make data vizing more fun than if you did it in solitude. Okay. Now there's also Tableau Public. So if you don't have a Tableau Public account, I recommend you create one, go on there and follow some people. Again, if you don't know who to follow, you could go to my site, follow the people that I'm following. And one of the great things is you have an activity feed. So at the top right of Tableau Public, there's an activity feed. It'll show you things that people are publishing, things that people are favoriting. You can kind of get this quick view of all these cool visualizations that you can take and either download and break apart, or you can, get inspiration from, or, hey, I'm going to try that in my next viz. So if you're not part of Tableau Public, I greatly recommend it. LinkedIn, there's lots of people talking Tableau on LinkedIn. I'm sure with Tableau being up in Washington that Seattle's probably got a killer Tableau user group. So if you're not a part of the Tableau user group where you go meet live with people, I would greatly recommend that. There's typically people, I don't know how they all work, but we in Cincinnati do a couple hours of presentations. Then we kind of hang out afterwards. We're doing one at a pizza place here in a couple of weeks and just setting up shop there and eating pizza and having a few drinks while we learn about Tableau. And I know a lot, so me personally, I'm a natural introvert. And I know a lot of us data people are. So one of the great things is when you got Tableau in common, it's easy to talk to other people. So don't be intimidated by that. When I think what you'll find through all these forms of community is that people love to talk about this. People love to help others. People love to inspire others. And I can guarantee that you could reach out to Ben Jones or the Ben Jones equivalent that you don't know, and that person probably be willing to help you. All right, the next one is read and listen. So I talked about me getting through high school without reading a book, but one thing I do read a lot of is blog posts. So I would encourage you to start reading about Tableau. Don't just do the things on your own. All due respect, Ben knows like 99.9% of the stuff you can do in Tableau, but I encourage you to expand and read blog posts from other people. I have a blog post. My brother has one of the most popular blog websites out there. It's kenflerlage.com. But there's other people like Andy Kriebel and Jeff Schaefer and Ryan Sleeper that just have amazing blog posts that allow to do just about anything. So if you ever have a question, if you use Google, you will probably run into one of those four blog posts kind of walking you through the steps. The other thing I'd encourage is listening. So if you're like me, I'm in the car an hour and a half each day commuting to and from work. I listen to podcasts while in there. There's, I don't know, 4 or 5 different Tableau specific podcasts. The Tableau Wannabe is on iTunes. Ann Jackson and Luke Stanky. They're two Zen masters. They have a podcast called #Analytics. David Murphy's a Zen master. He has something he calls Datasaurus Rex podcast. There are all kinds of them, and there are more that are outside of the Tableau community as well that focus just on data visualization in general. People like Cole Netflix, and then there's some data science type podcasts. So I'd encourage you to listen to those as well. You can be learning while you're driving. Next thing is probably the most obvious is the practice. So I would recommend, and I don't know, being in a class, I don't know how many people are doing this for a living, how many people are taking this home and practicing, but one of my recommendations is find data that you find interesting. And data is not all that difficult to find online. There are lots of different websites, data.world being one of them, that keep repositories of data. Google just came out with a data set search. You could just search for Google data sets. So I would recommend you go find data you're interested, create some visualizations on things that you're interested in, and start sharing that. Share it on Tableau Public, share it on Twitter, share it on LinkedIn. You're going to get feedback from people. You're going to potentially inspire others. But one of the great things about practicing and sharing is you're building that Tableau portfolio on Tableau Public. And from what I heard from people that hire Tableau developers, many of them won't even hire somebody if they don't have a Tableau Public portfolio. So one of the greatest ways, and I speak from experience, is to get your portfolio seen and get it out there on Tableau Public. It's one of the greatest ways to be able to advance in your current position or to find another position doing something like data visualization. Compete. And so I would always recommend competing, and I'll use this word a little bit loosely. When we're talking about Iron Viz, it's really competing. I once heard when I first started that there is no better learning experience than Iron Viz. I totally agree, because you put your best foot forward. You try and do things that people have never seen before. You try and bring out the wow factor. And those things might not come out if you're just doing something at a personal project. So I'd strongly recommend Iron Viz, even if you don't think you win. I didn't think I was going to win that first one. I got third place. So I'd strongly recommend competing. And then there's other things that you can compete, and I'm doing air quotes right now, you can't see me. There's other community projects where there might not necessarily be competition, but things like Makeover Monday. I don't know if you guys have heard of Makeover Monday, but it's led by a Zen master. And basically what they do is give you a data set every week on Sunday. I guess it should be Makeover Sunday, but and they give you a visualization to go with that data set. And the intention is to remake it, to make it better, to do something different. It is a great learning experience. Eva Murray, who runs it, does a Viz review video every single week. It's about an hour long. If you're not watching that, you should, because it has just tons of great information, tons of great feedback, recommendation, tips, and tricks. And there's a lot of other social projects out there. Viz for Social Good, Project Health Viz, which is run by Lindsay Betzendahl, who I collaborated with on the Cheetah Viz, Sports Viz Sunday, if you like sport. So lots of different social projects out there where you can be provided with a data set. You don't even need to source your own data, and you guys can come together as a group to really understand what maybe the best practices are. So I'd really recommend, one thing I didn't mention is Workout Wednesday. The two I would recommend the most are Makeover Monday and Workout Wednesday. And last but not least is get a Zen master for a brother. Hopefully somebody's laughing and I'm not just cracking another dad joke, but obviously that's sort of a joke, and I've been blessed to have an identical twin brother as a Zen master. I'm also blessed to have a 4-time Zen as a boss. But my point with this is everybody has Zen masters at their disposal. Everybody has Tableau ambassadors at their disposal. Everybody has Tableau experts that they can reach out to. If you're connected, and this comes back to point number one, if you're connected to community, you can reach out to these people. And I know most of them fairly well. Most of them are willing to help in a second. I know my brother Ken and my boss Jeff, they are willing to help anybody that reaches out to them. And maybe they can't always do it. Maybe the problem is, too in depth where they might not be able to, or a sensitive topic, but generally they all try to help people when they're contacted. So just because I have those connections and I was lucky enough to kind of land in that spot doesn't mean that you can't have those connections as well, just by getting connected to people in community. I would be willing to bet you could reach out to any Zen master or any Tableau ambassador or anybody else for that matter in the Tableau community and ask for help and you'd get it. In fact, if any of you use the Tableau forums are where you can ask questions. A lot of those questions are being answered by Tableau Zen masters and other experts in the data visualization community. So just to kind of wrap up, for me, Tableau has completely changed my life. And I know that sounds a little bit like an overstatement, but it is 100% true. I mentioned before, my brother lives in Pennsylvania. He moved to Pennsylvania for a girl 20 years ago. And we tried to stay close, but we didn't. My identical twin brother, who's my best friend, most of my life, we grew apart. We now talk several times a day. We talk about Tableau every day. We talk about other things as well. But I get to talk to him and be close to him more so than I've ever been in my entire life. And I give that credit to Tableau. But I also have a hobby I love. I got a job that's the best job I've ever had in my entire life from creating visualizations for fun and putting them on Tableau Public. So I have my dream job. So what I'm saying right here is just I encourage you to get involved, to engage yourself in this, engulf yourself in this full Tableau experience, get involved in community, grow your skills, learn from the best, compete with the best, practice and work out with the best. I think that your skills will improve and that you'll have a heck of a lot of fun doing it. So that's what I have for tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions, talk through any of these things that anybody would like.
Cool. Any questions for Kevin?
There are questions posted on the
Oh, cool. Oh, right on. Oh, in the chat? Am I?
Actually, Canvas discussion.
Canvas. Got it. Okay, cool. Kevin, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, yep.
All right, right. Well, first of all, hey, Kevin, thank you so much. I've just been so just blown away by how amazing you've just developed your skills. And it's really cool to hear that story of how you sort of found yourself just, not only building skills, but also building, in some cases, maybe rebuilding some relationships. That's a really cool story. I didn't know that about you guys as you've grown apart. That's really neat. And I can also say, that, yeah, I've made a lot of friends, people that I've been able to keep in touch with over the years. And yeah, it's a really tight-knit community, a lot of really supportive people, really smart people. Jeff Schaefer, who is you mentioned as your boss that hired you, he's the co-author of the big book of dashboards. And he's been in the dataviz world for a long time now. And he's right. People, you literally, if you email these people out of the blue, it's like, hey, here's my name. My name is so-and-so. Here's what I'm thinking about. I had a question for you. They'll get back to you like the same day, next day. It's unbelievable. Right. It's really, really cool. And nobody's like unapproachable. Nobody feels like they're too important to talk to you. It's a really cool group of humble people that are happy to help. Ken's helped me many times. He helped me learn SQL when I didn't know much about it. So yeah, it's just been a real cool group of people to be involved with. So let me dive into, I think we have in the discussion board here, a handful of questions for you. So I will just read them off for you here. Oh my gosh. Okay, cool. So first, what's the best way to quickly become a Tableau expert? I think you kind of covered that, but yeah, anything you'd add to that? I guess just of all the things, other than having a brother as talented as yours, like it sounded like community was your number one kind of go-to, like start there and start interacting with people there.
Well, let's be clear. Taking a class from Ben Jones is number one. So that, I mean, that beats everything. But if I had to pick another second, yeah, community. Community for me is where I grew the most. And sure, I mean, you have to practice. You have to use the tool. But when you get involved in community, you start to be involved in those conversations about how to use the software. What are best practices, how to use color, how to design, how to use specific chart types for a specific reason, what not to use. Don't use pie charts with 30 slices in them, right? So getting involved with community is when you start to talk, you start to develop those relationships. You can quickly contact somebody, ask for help. That person may be one of your best friends. So yeah, for me, number one is certainly community, but all those other steps are important as well. Practicing, reading up, building your knowledge base. I would just really recommend people get involved in Makeover Monday. If you guys aren't doing that, there's just so much great feedback and so much great knowledge being shared. Even Murray, like I said, does this Viz review feedback video so if you create a Viz, you can submit for your Viz to be given feedback, and she'll do that on that video session. She brings in guests to help her with that, and Jeff Schaefer being one of them recently, Sarah Bartlett, who's real known in the community, to give feedback. So get involved in Makeover Monday. Try Iron Viz. You will stretch your skills so far because you're just trying to do some cool things that you might not have ever done before. So so all those different pieces are important. But yeah, getting involved in community is just it will rocket launch you and to really want to do it as well. Just be inspired by some of the really cool stuff that people are doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think he's right. There's kind of three main ways. There's Twitter, for better or for worse. It's really where the conversation is happening today. Second is the forums. That's a separate subset of people solving people's questions and problems. And then the third piece, I think, is the user groups where you're meeting people face-to-face. That's really where you start.
Right. Make sure you're on Tableau Public, too. I assume everybody here probably has a Tableau Public profile, but I'd get active on it. Make sure you're looking at, start following people and look at that activity feed. I look at it maybe once a day, but I'll look through all the things that were published for my contacts and all the stuff that was favorited by my contacts. And you really get to see some cool stuff. You go, oh man, I could totally use that in a personal Viz or even a work Viz. I've done that so many times.
Kind of exposing yourself to other things people are doing. Yeah, so everybody definitely has a Tableau Public profile, but have you all kind of gotten involved with like following different accounts and the whole social side of Tableau Public very much at all? Did you kind of know you could, or do you think it was more just a repository you kind of noticed it? Yeah. Yeah, there's not like commenting yet or anything like that, but you can favorites, you can follow people. And then as you mentioned, the activity feed lets you see what these people that you're watching are up to and what they're doing. So a good way to do it would be to say like, oh, who won Viz of the day? Okay, I'm going to go follow that account if I think their work is interesting. And then, again, yeah, usually they'll put their contact information up on there. You can just click and reach out to them and say, hey, I thought what you did was pretty neat. I had a question about how you did something, or even like, hey, are you interested in knowing if I had an idea of what you could do with this or something? Usually start a conversation with people, and it's cool, and it goes from there. So another question here for you, Kevin, from David here in the class. What tools do you personally use for exploring your data to develop your story? Or do you actually start in Tableau and begin to build the finished story product from the outset?
Yeah, so I mean, we'll go back to that shoot, I can't even think of the name of the Viz, the water Viz, African water crisis. That was, I mentioned, that was the first time I really realized that it wasn't just this palette that you could draw on. It was that Tableau was a really great analysis tool. So yeah, I start when I'm doing stuff at work, I'm going to probably need to structure my data using SQL. Ben, I've been using SQL for about 6 months, so I'm not a genius like my brother is at it, but you may have to structure to get your data into Tableau using some SQL. But generally I do all my exploration in Tableau. it's so quick to just and analyze the data right there in the tool, and that's what it's built for. So yeah, generally all my analysis is done and then I use that to build dashboards or sometimes I open up Tableau just to explore data and never ever have any sort of finished.
Ooh, that's a long one. You still there? Did we lose you? Oh, it didn't pick back up again. Is he still showing there?
Ben, are you there?
Hey, yeah, we can see you. Sorry, I just switched your audio on and off again because we lost you there. But yeah, I think you were talking about I think where we lost you, Kev, you were saying something like you're going to Tableau when you don't even know what's there. Maybe is that what you were saying?
What I was saying is sometimes, so I use Tableau specifically to explore my data. I don't use any other tools necessarily. Sometimes I'll use a little SQL to look at a few things or to structure my data to get it into Tableau. But generally speaking, I use Tableau for exploring the data, for doing that data analysis. And that's what Tableau is built for. And there are times that I may bring data into Tableau and there's no resulting visual from it. It's really just about exploring the data. So 90% of what I do, both data exploration and analysis and then also creating dashboards, is done in Tableau.
Yeah. Yeah, I know for sure, like with all the journalists I work with over the years, they, in fact, like even that New York Times does this, I know CNN does this. When you see on their website is never Tableau, mostly because I think they have their own requirements and such, but they do use Tableau to find the data story, to explore the data, among other tools. I wouldn't say at all it's exclusive. They'll have a handful of people in the newsroom that know how to use Tableau to mostly, again, just find the data story. And then they use it like almost a rapid prototyping. And then they'll then take their idea of what they want to build, and they'll go ahead and put that into to D3 or JavaScript or whatever, build it from the ground up, every pixel under control. So, but yeah, they don't want to start in code because that might be a little slow. I think they're getting so good that they may actually be doing that now, just starting directly in code with all the libraries and examples they've built up over the years. But at the beginning, it was more like, hey, we use Tableau to figure out what the heck's going on in the data. So data story finding tool, not always the publishing or the data storytelling tool. I think I found with Tableau, and I think it's maybe similar with other tools too, there's sort of two aha moments that people go through. So that kind of results in these three phases. So the first phase is, I think I'm going to pick up this tool so I can make really awesome dashboards for work. So that's shouted in terms of like the presentation, which is great. And then, like Kevin mentioned, you go, oh, actually, wow, this is really for me to create these amazing, richly interactive sandboxes to be able to figure out in a very short amount of time what's going on in my data. I'm discovering things so fast that's really the power. And then the next phase happens, and some people never get here. And this is going back all the way to the research project of Tableau and at Stanford University and how it was created in the first place, which is the real power of it is that you can sit there in a room of people, subject matter experts, data experts, 3 to 5 people, maybe sometimes even more like 7 or 8 or 10. And you're mutually discovering and exploring data together, having a conversation with data on the wall. And that is where, when you walk out of a room where that happened, you realize that that's really the power of the tool, that you can have such a quick ability to pivot, to change views, to blend other data sources in, join other data sources, restructure your data very quickly on the fly in the room. An hour later, people walk out with just their minds blown about what they just learned, questions they didn't even know they would have. So that's that second phase where you get into this this realization that this is really about me and my team that I'm on, having this conversation with ourselves, with each other, with the data as well as a seat at the table. So yeah, those are some pretty cool kind of moments where you go, oh wow, this is even more powerful than what I thought it was at the beginning. So yeah, thanks for kind of describing that. I totally agree. I think, and it's natural, right? Because you start with saying like, I just need to really learn how to make awesome charts and graphs and maps and things. And it makes sense that that would be step one, but then you realize, oh, wow, I can actually find stories that I wasn't even expecting to find,
Right.
that I didn't even know were there. And so then the team-based approach is this like total, to me, a third wave of just amazing discoveries around what can be done with it.
You nailed that. You nailed that, by the way. So I've been in, and I kind of touched on the first two, but I mean, that third one is something we do all the time. Just walk out, listen to developers sitting in a circle, dropping pills and analyzing data just really quickly on the fly. And it's amazing. It's really, really powerful. So really well described there.
Okay, one more question for you, then we'll let you off the hook. So outside of the recognition and employment this has given you, what is it about competing in the Tableau community that has lent itself to improving your skills and growing into such a great Tableau storyteller? So parenthetical statement, you have an audience of dataviz people rather than a lay audience or business audience. So it's not obvious that the dataviz community would be the best audience to aim for, yet it has worked for you very well. So what about the competition side of it within the community?
Well, let me see if I can answer that question. So and I kind of glossed over this and I meant to mention it. So when I was first talking to my brother about Tableau, he said something that stuck with me. And he said, well, let me take a step back. Let me take us back 32 years. When I was 10, when we were 10, Ken and I, what we used to do is sit at our desks and draw pictures of Transformers. We just drew. And I don't know if anybody remembers Mad Balls. They were a goofy little thing, and Garbage Pail Kids. We used to just sit and draw for hours. That's all we did, just draw, draw, draw. And I was just ate up with it. All I wanted to do is draw and play baseball, but draw, draw, draw. And when I first talked to Ken, when he took that evening to talk to me about Tableau, he said, this is the closest thing I've come to us drawing Transformers as 10-year-olds. And there's something about the mixture of storytelling and analysis and creativity and design that is just, I don't know, for me, just fits me perfectly and just gets my juices flowing. I've always been in analytics. I've got degrees and I got a degree in mathematics. So those are things that excited me. I always liked, stories, even though I didn't read them. I always liked to tell stories, and I was always creative. I always liked to draw, and in school, my two favorite classes were math and art. So there was something about Tableau that really just got my juices flowing, more than any other hobby I've ever been involved in. But separate to that, yeah, it was just really, really competitive. I don't know if Ken's not like that. So I thought maybe it's a twin brother thing where I just want to beat him. It's going to be a while before I'm beating him in this stuff. But so I just always been competitive and played sports my whole life. So there's something about the competition, about wanting to be the best. So that has always kind of fueled me. So, and I think that's no different here. So I don't know if that necessarily answers the specific question, but there's just something about Tableau that just fits me and my personality and my desires perfectly, and the things that I love perfectly. And I think that's part of what's kind of fueled me to push so hard to get good at it so quickly. And when the accolades are, the top Iron Viz top 10s and, top 5 data viz competitions, those things are great. But when you know that, that you've worked your butt off to create sort of, this portfolio of work that is meaningful, that can help others, that can land you a job. I mean, it's really satisfying. It's really satisfying to be able to dig your toes in, work work your butt off and be successful. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but
yeah. No, it does. It does. It sounds like that's just really like personally something that you get revved up about, and it gets you motivated to push yourself. And I would find, would you recommend, I mean, I think people get a little bit fired up sometimes with, and riled up, maybe is a better word, with Iron Viz. Like it's really intense, but other than that, it's like pretty fun and playful competition. I don't really find it's like very nasty or.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No, not. It's fun, and, you know, and you'll find some people that, and Ben, you obviously know this, so I'm not saying anything you don't know, but you'll find some people that just have a little bit of fun with it. You know, I made a game. I made the Candyland game. The intention was to have a little bit of fun, and I think that's what's important about doing this kind of stuff outside of work, is having some fun with it. So yes, it's not nasty. It's playful. I think people encourage each other. You know, I created a Iron Viz entry this year. I was the second one to post one. Ken was the first. He beat me again. But I've also reviewed 5 or 6 other people's Iron Viz entries and given them feedback and tried to help them. So it's not for me. It's not like I want to crush everybody else. I'm going to keep my skills, you know, close to the vest. I want to help other people. If they're competing in Iron Viz, generally competing against me, I still want to help them. So yes, it's playful. It's fun. It's a great learning experience. And I think generally people that are even competing in it are willing to help other people that are competing in it. So yeah, it's a good experience. I think sometimes people are really intimidated to kind of take that first step and to do it. But it's just not like that. It's just not something to be intimidated about. And while we're on topic, people should look, I won't spend a lot of time on it, but people should look up the project that Sarah Bartlett is doing called Iron Quest. And the intention of that is to just get people comfortable with Iron Viz. So she's kind of doing something similar. She does a topic every month. You can create a Viz based on that topic. Then she'll do a review, kind of like Makeover Monday, but she'll do it at the end of the month. You have a full month to do it. No winners, no losers, but the idea is, hey, you know, you can do Iron Quest, then you can do Iron Viz. So, yeah, there's nothing nasty about it. It's just a heck of a lot of fun, and people are really nice and encouraging throughout that process.
Awesome. Kevin, thank you so much. I really appreciate, I mean, you spent a whole hour on the phone here with us and taking time to put this presentation together. I know a lot of people could benefit from this presentation, so I hope you get a chance to give it again. But thank you again, and for sticking around and asking questions. And have a great day. I know it's late for you, so we'll let you go. And thank you again, and we'll talk soon. Okay, Kevin?
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. And the